Link. Nice. Half and half windows. Okay, great, great, good, 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 good. CBS. What's up? House begins debate on Epstein bill. House is beginning 40 minutes of debate on the Epstein bill. After that, votes are expected to begin. GOP Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio and Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin are taking the lead in the debate for their respective sides of the aisle. This is already like kind of cooked, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes. House is debating a bill, likely to pass by a wide bipartisan margin. Johnson said he expects the Senate to amend the legislation to address what he called serious deficiencies related to the survivor's privacy and the possibility of unintended disclosure of sensitive information, basically censoring the names of Republicans in the list because all the victims' names are already redacted, I'm pretty sure. Either that or it would be released with such redactions already, like that's part of the House bill. Let me see if I can find here. Hold on. C-SPAN, Epstein files, vote. Video, C-SPAN. C-SPAN? What are you doing? Hello? The fuck? I don't know. I'm gonna be real. Let me have that open at the very least while I look for this. House of Representatives video. Please give me the live feed. Oh my god. What is going on the floor above me, man? What? Are they just not reporting on this? What is going on? C-SPAN, where's your live video feed? C-SPAN live video. Maybe the C-SPAN YouTube channel? No. That's... No C-SPAN, I don't want the app. Senate video. Here, hold on. Epstein files, Congress, vote live. Congress debate live. Well, I'm getting live updates and stuff from Al Jazeera too. What is going on? I can only find text updates. See here, look. Let's pull up the CBS page. See, this is you know, CBS is giving some live updates for the Epstein files vote in the House of Representatives, but there's no wait a minute, CBS Live 3. Gimme that. How do I make this larger? That's not helping.
Motion accept 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Natural Resources.
Great, thank you, CBS video. Very cool. The video just stopped. It just cut out. And it's not coming back. Great, good. Okay, well, that's useless as fuck. And C-SPAN has nothing. Okay, C-SPAN. House of Representatives live. C-SPAN live video feed. C-SPAN live? What the f... How... Now, House to vote on resolution to release Epstein files. Yes, give me that. You must log in with your television provider in order to view the C-SPAN live streams. Fuck you, C-SPAN. Oh my god. This is a fucking joke of a country. The public access TV isn't public access. Anyways. Here, hold on. House of Representatives live Epstein files. Fox 4 Dallas Fort Worth YouTube channel. Sure. CBS. Okay.
This gentleman from California, member of the Judiciary Committee,
Let's pull this up. Okay. This is great. Okay. Where I need to bring back the React Andy window. Okay. Where would I put it? Probably on like this side of the screen here. Or actually, you know what I could do even? It's just this. No, don't do that. Idiot. Do this. Oh, that's actually... I like that. There we go, perfect. I don't even need to do the React Andy thing. There we go. So now we have the it's very small, but this is the CBS live stream feed on this side of the screen here. Try to give let's see if I can't make this fit a little better within the frame. There we go.
Let's get answers and let's get this over with. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The
We
gentleman
reserve.
reserves.
Yeah, we reserve.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
So a
I
lot of
yield
this-
to the very distinguished gentlelady from Washington, a member of the Judiciary Committee.
Oh,
Gentlelady
fuck
from
you,
Washington.
Jamie Raskin.
Mr. Speaker, thousands of girls, children, were abused by Jeffrey Epstein
Oh, what?
and his massive and powerful ring of pedophiles and protectors of pedophiles. We
What's
can't
happening out
say
here? Let me
all their
actually
names here. We don't
just
have
do
time.
this.
But let's at least bring a few of the courageous survivors and their names onto the House floor right here as we debate this. Haley Robson, Jenna Lisa Jones, Michelle Licata, Ashley Rubright, Annie
Just give me 1
Farmer,
second.
Marina
There we go.
Lacerda, Rachel Benavides. These women have carried a burden that they never should have had to bear. And today, they demand, we demand, the American people demand that we answer their clarion call to justice. Today, despite all
What's happening right now? What's happening is the debate on the House of Representatives floor regarding the release of the Epstein files, where the Republicans are going to hem and haw about their release. In fact, if I look at Twitter, Ken Klippenstein reported just yesterday and today. He never misses, does he? Here, let's take a look. Shout outs to Ken Klippenstein, my goat. From yesterday, Congress Epstein files vote tomorrow will be undermined by national security. Didn't Trump say recently, screw it, just release it? Yes, which I think, like, there's just no way out. So he had to pick, like, one of a number of different things, and I think that's what he picked. I don't think that he's any less implicated. Ken Klippenstein yesterday, and then now today, Ken Klippenstein reporting that Speaker Johnson has national security concerns about releasing the Epstein files. They fucking love their national security concerns. Of course, whenever any politician says national security, you have to just interpret that as threat to capital, threat to the ruling classes, particularly with respect to the military-industrial complex. That's what's up there. right now, the debate is happening. I don't know whether Mike Johnson's even going to be successful in like manufacturing the narrative to not release the Epstein files, or to like just blot out everybody's name that could be implicated. I feel like that would almost make it worse.
And I would just submit, if you were going to be
What's this?
embarrassed, if you were going to suffer social harm, and that is all of the encompassed activity that you were a part of, you will be named in this petition. And I resent that. Innocent people should not be harmed when we are pursuing justice.
Okay, yeah. So they're hemming and hawing about the supposed lack of redaction of the names of the victims in these files. This is an advanced technique known as lying through your teeth, because it's part of the. Well, let's let Jamie Raskin.
The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Oh, okay.
Speaker, 1 in 3 women and girls around the world are physically and sexually assaulted each year.
That's fucked up. See, the victims are the people that should be incriminated from it. Yeah, I guess for them, it's like in their mind, the victims are the people that perpetrated the pedophilia. But no, as I'm sure the Democrats will lay out, the redaction of the victims' names, the survivors' names, is already a part of this resolution to release the Epstein files. Like, they wouldn't release it and dox every single woman that was underage at the time that they were abused by Epstein and a number of other, like, extremely powerful pedophiles from around the world.
Reporter who asked about the files and who nominated an alleged sexual predator to be our AG. It is the same person whose name appears more than any other in the Epstein emails. And in the pantheon of violence, a sexual predator is the worst of the worst. So why protect him? It's also curious that the judiciary is managing this debate and has not even had this come before the committee. I wonder why. Release the files now!
We reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
You know, that's actually
I yield,
great.
2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas.
I do appreciate that, like, this Democratic representative got up there and was like, you guys are all pedophiles.
And a bipartisan supermajority is going to pass a bill to increase transparency regarding the egregious abuses by Jeffrey Epstein, a goal that anyone of conscience desires. That is, in totality, an important statement.
I'm surprised they're not both sidesing.
Remember how we got here. After decades, it was President Trump's Department of Justice that indicted Jeffrey Epstein in July of 2019. It was President Trump's DOJ that arrested and indicted Ms. Maxwell.
This might actually be too hot of an issue to both sides.
Subpoenas that has released 65,000 pages of files in just 10 months. Meanwhile, my colleagues on the side of the aisle have largely ignored this issue. It was Democrats who redacted an email to mislead the American people about the truth.
This is nothing rhetoric. He's trying to do the whole, oh, actually, it was Trump who did all of this, like, transparency and shit, despite the fact that, like, they're trying to, you know, in a futile attempt, distract from the fact that Trump is omega implicated in the Epstein emails and the Epstein files. And they're desperate to try to grasp at a narrative, and they're not doing a very good job of it, is what's going on.
To his criminal enterprise, who have genuine concerns about supporting this bill out of fear of creating new victims or harming existing victims.
Yeah, see, there's the line. Like, we can't release this giant dossier of documents that implicates pedophiles. Think of the victims. What? What the were you okay, genuine question for the Republicans that take this line. Were you planning to release it without redacting the victims' names? Was that your idea? Because no, that's not what's happening.
Back. The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentlelady from Massachusetts, Representative Clark, the Minority Whip.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This should be an easy vote.
Here,
this is about justice for the victims and survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. This is about every victim of trafficking and sexual abuse, monstrous crimes that thrive in secrecy and fear. Yet instead of shining a light on that darkness, just moments ago, Donald Trump defended the continued obstruction of releasing these files. Even as House Republicans prepare to vote yes today, Speaker Johnson is calling this a show vote. He's calling it dangerous. He is signaling the U.S. Senate to block it. Republicans continue to use their power to shield rich pedophiles from justice.
Thank you,
If
finally.
can't
Jesus.
stand up for these survivors, how can anyone trust you to stand up for them? I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman reserved.
This is still, like, a little bit on the soft end of rhetoric against, like, Epstein. But nonetheless, like, it is an unavoidable fact that, like... Yeah, literally, Republicans are like, fuck, we have to defend the fucking purple guy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Except that, like, Jeffrey Epstein and the people associated with him are significantly more evil than the purple guy. The purple guy was a child predator who simply murdered children, and he only killed, like, a dozen or so, right? I don't know what the fuck the Five Nights at Freddy's lore has to say about that. This is a giant, like, international network of the rich and powerful who, you know, have connections to politicians, power brokers, business people, whatever. The entire global capital power structure is implicated to some degree in dealings with Jeffrey Epstein around the central vice of pedophilia. Like, Jeffrey Epstein hosted parties where having underage, like, prostitutes was like party favors, you know? And apparently, from what we know, there are at least 1,000 victims of this trafficking ring particularly. That's just what we know so far. So I would venture to say this is actually worse than Purple Guy. But nonetheless, if you want to think about it in terms of that kind of analogy, then sure, like, by all means. Because, yeah, unambiguous evil. And Republicans are like, well, we can't release that. What if, fuck.
Pardons are for people who are repentant. Pardons are not for people who lie. Every member of this body should immediately, verbally, vocally denounce the idea of clemency, commutation, or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and we reserve.
The gentleman reserves.
Dickless shit from Jamie Raskin, obviously. Pardons are, in fact, for anybody you want to just be absolved of, like, wrongdoing or whatever. That's how a pardon works. That's one of the issues with pardons. Is that it's just, like, you have as the president, you just kind of have complete unilateral power to be like, congratulations, you will no longer face consequences for this crime that you've committed. Yeah, you're gonna get a range here.
Pierce the dark with their light. Anytime any girl is trapped.
I don't think anything particularly meaningful is gonna be said there, but yeah, you're gonna get a range of political expression here from the more well-meaning liberals to the liberals that don't actually care that much. Jamie Raskin being one of the latter, I think. Maybe he does care, but he's not very politically effective. Yeah, the you know, to go back a little bit to the institutional aspect of, like, pardons. You can just pardon anybody of a crime that they've committed. How many people still believe in liberalism anyway? A few. Look, the champions of liberalism, the supposed champions of liberalism in politics are actually its absolute worst contingents. There are people who I would consider to be much closer to socialism that I would consider to be much better champions of liberalism and liberal ideology because they are much more representative of social democracy. They still suffer from similar fundamental flaws in that they don't necessarily want to change the fundamental bedrock of a market economy based on the private ownership of production and wealth. But, you know, I would take those kinds of liberals to these fuckers any day of the week. This is like the
talking about the very victims.
I don't care about this guy. This guy's a Republican, so he's more fascist than liberal. Well, even the fascists are liberal. The politicians in government are a weird post-Keynesian perversion of what liberalism was in the Enlightenment, that like completely devoid of any political aspiration, which to a certain extent liberalism suffers from anyway, because this is a liberal world. Liberalism by definition can't really do anything so meaningful as to fix like fundamental problems of society, right? But that doesn't mean it can do nothing, you know? Not unless the institutions and artifice of politics become so compromised that, it just paralyzes everything, which is the state that we currently live in. Does that make sense? Basically, your average liberal wine mom wants Trump's head on a silver platter, free education, and free healthcare, which are all like significant nation-building things, nation-building items. Meanwhile, the average liberal politician thinks Trump is too mean and want to wag their finger and take the moral high ground by losing repeatedly, and then ask for you to donate money to them.
Why not release the files today? This is a
Time has expired.
Release the files today. Thank you.
The gentlelady's time has expired.
We got the most important
The
part.
gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew.
At this point, I'm surprised we don't just call their ideology grifter. I mean, to a certain extent, it's like the further you drift away from any positive political aspiration, yeah, the closer you get to grifter influencer, right? That's the defining ideology for most people in the federal government. They're just kind of interested in the bag, right? Or like blowing up on social media. Basically, the revolving door of politics was kind of in a way recreated on social media, if that makes sense. This took shape in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it's been kind of a known quantity that there's a revolving door where you just kind of get into politics, do fuck all, and then you use the connections that you built up there to advance your personal career in the private sector with some kind of private contractor or the military industrial complex or an insurance company or whatever the fuck. Basically, the federal machine of politics is kind of optimized to leech off of the corpse of America. And it's been that way. It's been like honed for that for decades because, like, I guess characteristic of a late stage liberal capitalist framework, it's sort of it's subject to the logic of the market and the circulation of wealth, and well, actually not the circulation of wealth, rather the accumulation of wealth. And when you're optimizing for that, it's going to prevent the state and governments from doing anything. So basically, capitalism is a system in which we live, shocker, that prioritizes the accumulation of wealth and the private ownership of stuff and resources, intellectual property, ideas, whatever. And the current structure of government has increasingly reflected the priority of simply accumulating and consolidating wealth. Government, like most people in the federal government especially, are no longer interested in any way about substantial nation-building, infrastructural, and socioeconomic projects in the affirmative or negative. It's either, toothless virtue signaling, toothless vice signaling, or ineffectual, half-assed, like limp-wristed attempts to maybe do something until the donors with whom they engage in the revolving door cycle of politics say, no, we can't let you do that. And then they cook up some excuse to not do it.
Who support justice here of having Trump derangement syndrome. You all suffer from something much worse, which is pedophile protection syndrome. Stop protecting pedophiles, release the Epstein files. The victims deserve justice. I yield back.
We reserve.
Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair.
No kidding.
The
No.
gentleman from Maryland reserves. The gentleman from Ohio.
Members are reminded to direct their comments to the chair. Fuck you. This is a venue of public discourse.
Yielding 30 seconds to my friend Representative Walkinshaw from Virginia.
The gentleman is recognized.
For years, Mr. Speaker, we have watched dangerous conspiracies like Pizzagate and QAnon shape our political landscape. They help fuel the rise of President Trump and were built on baseless claims about secret pedophile rings, while the real documented case of child sex trafficking involving Jeffrey Epstein remains shrouded in secrecy because President Trump refuses to release the files. What is President Trump hiding? Why?
Yeah, legitimately, it's like they're any time that they are even remotely attacked, they're like, you're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. They are remarkably dickless. But because the Democratic Party acts even more dickless, we don't get to see that very often. You know, all it takes is the slightest attack for them to fold under pressure. Which is in part why the Democrats don't do it, because they are also subject to the same set of capital interests, and capital needs them to both be submissive and breedable so that their profit line can go up.
At its core is about something very simple. The survivors deserve justice. The American people deserve the truth. To every survivor watching, your courage is inspiring. You are the reason why this vote is happening today. Protecting women and children from pedophiles should not be a Democratic issue, should not be a Republican issue. It should be a human rights issue and a matter of justice. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the Epstein Files Transparency Act. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, and we reserve.
The chair will remind all persons in the gallery that they are here as guests of the House. And
It is worth mentioning too, one thing I wish they did that they obviously won't do because they're Democrats, is they should say, like, this shouldn't be this shouldn't be a partisan issue, but it is a partisan issue. Republicans want to cover this shit up. Granted, there have been a number of other representatives that have said that, like, the Republicans are protecting pedophiles. Stop fucking doing that, you bunch of creeps, which, you know, it makes me happy to hear that. But, you know, at a time like this, you need to get rid of the dumb bipartisan whinging and just be like, yeah, the Republican Party, in their slavish devotion to Trump, and perhaps even outside of that, is very interested in protecting pedophiles. Do they have something that they would like to tell us? Maybe they should take a seat. You know what I mean? Oh, I need to have dive. Who dis?
the gentlelady yields back. The gentleman reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the distinguished gentleman from the great state of Louisiana.
Remember that one news person that said, oh, it's Mike Johnson. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman.
I think I remember that.
Such an extraordinary job on all of this. For 43 long days, the Democrats held this House and the entire country hostage. Finally, with the lights back on, this body's returning to our...
By the way, the fact that they caved kind of proves this point. Like, it was for nothing. But remember, the Republicans did that. The Republicans shut down the government. And kept it shut down. He sent everybody home, and the Democrats were still in the House.
Got to bring down prices for American families, and we got to finish the regular appropriations process, just to name a few of those priorities. And I wish I could say that our first order of business would be to get to those urgent priorities, but of course we're here spending time on the floor about something else. This is something we could have resolved last week when we brought a unanimous consent to pass this discharge with the full support of the body. But our friends over here who are arguing today...
Oh, you didn't do it when we wanted you to do it, so now we're not going to do it at all. Sticks out to, like...
That's what this is.
This is pretty weak sauce.
And it really is a shame. We have some heroic women in the chamber today. I met with many of them a while back. They're in the gallery here. They have come forward.
Yeah, actual child. Of course, Mike Johnson might be one of the most adult people in the Republican Party. He's just profoundly evil. He's willing to act like this for whatever tangible political benefit it may bring him. He's very smart. He's just really evil too.
Took too long to do it. And now we're in this process of making sure all the American people get the information, but we have to do it in the right way, After 4 years of Democrat control under President Biden, they were not truthful with us about a lot of things. The Democrats
the
insisted
classic.
the border was secure. We knew it wasn't. They insisted that...
Blah, blah, blah. Spare me the bullshit. Yeah, obviously the Epstein files weren't released when there was during the Biden presidency. I don't know what that has to do with this. They're releasing it now. Okay. Good. They're releasing it. Great. I don't have any love for the Democrats either. You got to, remember, a lot of them are implicated in there too. That is not an argument. You have to realize this is not an argument to not release the files. How's my favorite trans film going? Good. Thank you, Kayla the Furry. The hypocrisy is always the argument of last resort when you know you've lost already. It's like, the Democrats could have released it then. Well, they're releasing it now, dipshit. So release the Epstein files. Yeah, this is at this stage, it does seem like he's trying to kick up sand and like just confuse people the way that like a well-oiled disinformation machine would do, so that people just like say, well, now I don't trust anything, and they just kind of turn off their brain. That would be a W for Republicans if he managed to do that, but I don't know that he will be able to. Let me take this off.
evils that this guy committed with his trafficking ring and all of the abuses that they made these young women go through. They're using that as a political weapon to try to distract from their failures as a party and to try their best to try to tie President Trump somehow into this.
If there's a photo of Epstein, Trump, and Putin in there, I'm going to laugh my ass off. What we do know is that there is a photo of Trump and Bill Clinton that Putin has. But yeah, Trump and Putin both are almost certainly implicated in this network. Well, Putin almost certainly. Trump is, because he's name dropped like over 1,000 times in the emails that have been released. Nobody, like, there's no telling how much more implicated he gets if the whole dossier is released. Yeah, and this is like a giant list of files that's used for blackmailing purposes. So there's a fair chance that he would be in there.
From the Epstein estate. By the way, in my view, that's been the greatest treasure trove of information, because it's yielded for us Epstein's own personal flight logs, his financial records, his daily calendars, and so much more. But importantly, none of that was addressed or is addressed in the legislation that's being voted on today. The estate files wouldn't even have been encompassed in that. And so it goes to show that the Oversight Committee is doing it the right way. From the very beginning, we've been insistent that this matter be handled carefully and with the utmost caution.
It is, I think it is true from what I remember seeing, that it's just going to be like the files that are released and not like some other stuff as well, which I do believe that other stuff should be released. Yeah, the classic, you're not releasing literally every information that you have on everything, so you can't release anything, you know? Which, for the purpose of this kind of thing, sometimes you do actually want to limit, like, not limit, but like, if you do a release that's too big, it just becomes more of like a scatter shot where people kind of turn their brain off and they can't make anything of it, right? Like, theoretically, they could have released the emails and the Epstein files at the same time, but they didn't. They released the emails first, then the Epstein files. Hopefully they'll release other stuff later for the public to be able to see. And also, it takes time to redact people's names. One of the things that Republicans are lambasting the Democrats for is, whoa, you got to redact the names of the victims. You know, we object to the release of these files because you're not redacting the victims' names, even though they are doing that. And then, like, but also, you took too long to release this, so now we're not going to release it at all. party that never had any intention to release the Epstein files to begin with. You know?
We'll put this in the record because we need the legislative record to reflect what is the legislative intent behind this vote. I used to litigate cases. We would litigate federal statutes and whether or not they could.
I mean, for shit's sake, there were Republicans getting ratioed to hell and back on Twitter because they were trying to introduce an amendment to this resolution that would make it so that you didn't know who voted to release the Epstein files and who voted to not release them. You can imagine why the Republicans would do that and why they got blown up for it on Twitter. Yeah, it's like a kid throwing a tantrum. The problem is that works with Democrats. Like, the Democrats fold to that because they'll fold to literally anything.
Transparency. We want maximum transparency, especially when it comes to disclosing the names of anybody who had anything to do with these evils, anybody who conspired with or aided in any way Jeffrey Epstein.
Damn, that's crazy. So release those files, please.
We want the bill to be amended so it doesn't, at the same time, violate victim privacy, create new victims, disclose the names of any whistleblower or informant.
It already accounts for that. They just don't want it to be released. Look, the Democrats literally, like, their whole identity revolves around being competent, procedurally correct, fiddly bureaucrats. It is unrealistic to expect that they wouldn't have known and planned for that going into this. Literally, that's literally the only thing that Democrats have ever done correctly is like dot their I's, cross their T's, and like check the correct boxes on like a form they're filling out, you know, because that's what they think politics is. Yeah, they're like high school teachers' pets, and you're lambasting them for not being a good enough teacher's pets. Like, that's the only thing they're good at. Everything about this is some of the least believable shit.
We'll send it to the Senate, and we hope it's corrected. Thank you for the time, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
I'm yielding to Mr. Gomez for the sole purpose of making a parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Gomez is recognized.
Mr. Speaker,
I already have a seal,
I rise to ask a point of parliamentary inquiry. Is this an appropriate time to point out that the Republicans named children's savings account in their so-called One Big Beautiful Bill after Donald Trump, someone connected to one of the most notorious pedophiles in this country? Or that the Speaker of the House just lied on the floor by stating that there was protection, there isn't protections for the victims in the Epstein bill.
The gentleman is no longer recognized. The gentleman from
Damn, Republicans are such pussies. Let me rewind that to get that again.
Republicans support transparency. We want many things.
Here, let's see what was. Okay.
I rise to ask a point of parliamentary inquiry. Is this an appropriate time to point out that the Republicans named children's savings account in their so-called One Big Beautiful Bill after Donald Trump, someone connected to one of the most notorious pedophiles in this country?
He's making an inquiry, like, is it an appropriate time to point out this thing?
Or that the Speaker of the House just lied on the floor by stating that there was protection, there isn't protections for the victims.
And look, yeah, obviously he points out the thing that I was saying earlier. Obviously there's protections in this bill already for like for the victims. Yeah, he was like, is this a fair time to make a parliamentary inquiry as to why the speaker lied about this and like gutted the like funding for child tax credits or whatever in the big beautiful bill? And he was like, no, shut up, get out of here, shut up. Yeah, he said, like, you guys, like, is it an appropriate time to make a note that you fucking lied about all of this? And immediately the system was like, no, don't say any of that. Yeah, literally, you're not allowed to fact check people. And despite all of that, he got his words out. The Republicans crumble under the lightest possible touch. I'm gonna swap this with a radar orb, I think.
file must be released. Moreover, if the president is serious about what he's saying, he's got the power to release the Epstein file right now.
True.
Nobody's stopping him. It's within his possession. It's within his control. He can release the whole thing, and he can redact the names of the victims and others who are innocent in this process. Mr. Speaker Johnson said that these are unspeakable evils. Well, because of the bravery and the invincible courage of the women who've joined us today, they're no longer unspeakable. They're spoken. They're articulated. The cat is out of the bag, and we know what's been going on for decades. It's been a double standard of justice, going all the way back to Alex Acosta, who later got rewarded with a cabinet appointment in the Trump administration. Alex Acosta had a 60-count federal indictment ready to go against all kinds of people for an interstate sex trafficking conspiracy with solicitation.
He's actually like kind of going off right now. I'm gonna let him finish.
Traded that 60-count federal indictment for 1 count in state court. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up getting the sweetest of sweetheart deals ever on the plea bargain front. He was free from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. to do whatever he wanted and continuing to perpetrate his crimes and run his conspiracy, and then he would come and he would watch TV and spend the night in jail, and it was over in about a year.
Yeah, that is true. They should probably point out, like, you guys lied and said there is no Epstein files at all, you know? Granted, it might be hard to create that line because the Republican Party has been so incoherent and disorganized as of late, but yeah. Truly an Agartha move. That's true. Yeah, dude, this, again, it's like the institutions of state rapidly mobilizing to wrongly implement procedure when it comes to, like, protecting a pedophile versus the state when it's time to, like, I don't know, give more subsidies so that people don't immediately go bankrupt for medical expenses, right? Like, try not to be anarchist challenge, difficulty impossible.
So, I'm glad the president changed his mind, but let's be clear, Mr. President, you've got the power today to release the entire file. That's what you called for. That's what Pam Bondi called for. That's what Kash Patel called for. So we don't need anybody calling for the Senate to slow things down for more weeks and more months. The American people have had it. We'll reserve.
That's true. Mike Johnson was, in fact, I don't think I got to mention this. Mike Johnson did, in fact, reach out to the Senate to try to get them to stonewall the release of the Epstein files after the House had voted on it, because he knows that this is going to pass, probably. And yeah, it, like, legitimately, you would be hard-pressed to, like, the default opinion in America is that the system is corrupt. You legitimately, somebody who has the opinion that no, the system isn't corrupt and works fine, they are aware, as is everybody else, that opens them up to being fucking bullied for being a bootlicker, and that's why nobody really expresses that opinion. Government efficiency sending $5 trillion to Israel versus government efficiency when releasing a pedophile's data. True. Yeah, it shows you what kind of priorities that the state, particularly a capitalist state, will advance, and which ones it just doesn't deem important. For example, killing children, important. Funding food programs for children, not important. Funding healthcare subsidies that include and cover children, not important. Protecting a pedophile who abused children, important. You know? Actually, like, it's been well known for a while, the degree to which, like, the government, particularly in America, was compromised by the interests of the rich. But it is rare, if not unheard of, for it to be this undisguised, you know? Also, yes, or from earlier, Caleb the Furry, it would be hilarious if Netanyahu was in there. He might very well be, because Jeffrey Epstein did have connections to Israeli intelligence, just as he did to American intelligence. People who are actually anti-Semitic love to highlight that, but nonetheless, it's part of power broking. So in all likelihood, Netanyahu is in the Epstein list because Netanyahu was actually in power at the time that Jeffrey Epstein was doing all that. I don't think he was a Mossad agent, right? In the same way that I don't think he was a CIA agent, right? I think he simply had high level contacts at intelligence agencies, you know? And they simply tried to leverage that connection both ways so that he could get what he tried to leverage those connections so that he could get what he wanted, and then the governments that he was connected with tried to leverage those connections so that they could get what they wanted, right? That's how like a power broking ring such as that works. How do you get caught anyway? I think it was just a matter of the Trump administration deciding to act on information that was already kind of out in the wild, because Trump and Epstein had personal beef because they were targeting, I'm not joking, Trump and Epstein actually had a growing beef because they were targeting the same group of underage girls to bring to their rape parties. That is actually what the falling out was about. And Trump, I think, simply, if I'm remembering right, Trump simply used his connections and power as the president of the United States to basically tilt that beef in his favor.
405. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without
Can I request a recorded vote, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Yeah, I'm requesting a recorded vote.
The gentleman from Maryland has requested a recorded vote.
Ah.
Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote.
Perfect. All right, this is it.
Record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to suspend the rules will be followed by 5-minute votes on ordering the previous question on House Resolution 879, adoption of House Resolution 879 if ordered, and adoption of House Resolution 878. This is a 15-minute vote.
Okay, so this is not the... What do you think will happen if it releases? I don't know for sure, but I'll get to that later. I have some thoughts. This is actually super important. You notice, Gotron, you pointed this out earlier. The Republicans controlling the institution are quick to try to leverage it to protect, their pedophile friends. And Jamie Raskin said, "No, I want a recorded vote." So, with just an aye or nay vote, this would likely pass. This is I guess this is actually the resolution, isn't it? They're going to vote to release the Epstein files. If there was no recorded vote, this would likely pass, but we wouldn't know who voted against it. There wouldn't be a recorded tally of who voted yes and who voted no. Because of what Jamie Raskin asked for there, now everybody's vote has to be recorded. So we get to see exactly who voted against the release of the Epstein files. And I will let you know right now, it is probably going to be mostly Republicans if it's anybody at all. Right now, there's already 50 yes votes from both Democrats and Republicans, which is not super surprising. I'm sure the Republicans know that, If they voted no, it would probably be the end of their political career. Or even if they hid how they voted, you know? It would also increase the no's if it was silent. Yeah, if this was not a recorded vote, more people would vote no. Probably not enough to get it not to pass, but it would be like the Republicans would be a little bit more immune from the consequences of a no vote, which here is not the case. Volume is still on. There's just no audio coming through. Okay. As to what's going to happen when these files release, I think that things in terms of like PR and public perception and approval, things just continue getting worse and worse for Trump until his support numbers like bottom out and it becomes more and more cringe to associate with Trump or MAGA and the base like fractures further. Right? That's what I think. Think people are going to be like, wow, these people are bad anyway, going back to my 9 to 5? I mean, yeah. Look, I'm not under the impression that Donald Trump is going to face legal consequences from this. What I do think is going to happen is that the Republican Party is going to sink further into the hole because, like, this has destroyed them already. You know? Basically, you remember what I was saying about how the result of a neoliberal system makes it so that parties are reduced to either virtue signaling or vice signaling. Both of those you could just consider aura farming, right? How the fuck, if you're a political party with some sort of neoliberal inclinations in a neoliberal system whose only permitted action is to like do meaningless political aura farming, how the fuck do you aura farm if you spent months and months and months actively trying to protect the most powerful pedophiles on planet Earth from any sort of expose, even if that doesn't lead anywhere? How the fuck do you aura farm when people can just say, hey, didn't you like vote to not release the Epstein files? Didn't you want like Jeffrey Epstein and all his accomplices in various governments to just get away scot-free? How the fuck do you aura farm when that's what you're known for politically? You know, you kind of can't. And that is the death of a political party. Again, unless they do something to try to mitigate that, they sort of regroup and try to cultivate a new identity. No, I will not leave the dungeon. 23, 25, 26. Okay. Could be a generational cut for the party. Yeah, and I've already seen some clips of like Nick Fuentes saying like MAGA is dead. They're like the establishment now. And so like the America First people, basically the Groypers are taking over the Republican Party and they're going to get even more insane. What's happening with Candace Owens, basically? Yeah, basically, the party's going to run out of the arms of Donald Trump and Rubio and Mike Johnson and probably into the arms of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and, whoever else offers the same kind of turbo insane rhetoric. What the fuck are they doing upstairs? Yeah, legitimately, we are accelerating down the pipeline of socialism or barbarism. Which way, Western individual? Which way, Western country? Socialism or barbarism? And the Republican Party, in an effort to stay relevant, and not be tied to a sinking ship of neocons, they're like having to go further and further into just barbarism. No, I will not leave the dungeon. Yeah, legitimately, like when the Republican Party's identity was already that of conspiracism, anti-immigration, mass deportation, and like hatred of minorities, where else do you go further to the right except for out and out Nazism, like full on anti-Jewish, like anti-minority conspiracies, genocidal escalatory rhetoric, and like the most absolutely insane ideas you've ever never wanted to hear. You know? As soon as that number reaches 218, the files get released. There's the number's pretty small on the screen here, but you can see there's 125 yay votes already, pretty evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. Because again, Republicans realize how politically toxic it would be for their brand for them to not release this. So they're going to have to basically, in the interim, go along to get along. You know? I think I already have Grimer. I'm gonna... No, you know what? Sure. Find it funny how they labeled their yes and no? Yeah. It's just an old tradition from, like, the old days of Congress. It's like a more formal way of saying yes and no. Seeing Tucker Carlson have an identity crisis on Instagram about the growing Nazism on the right and the pedo stuff on Trump is funny as fuck. Oh yeah, Tucker Carlson has actually been having a identity crisis for some time. I remember seeing like a couple years ago at CPAC, he started like going off the rails like completely, but lately it's been extra because he's trying to figure out what he has to do to integrate into the new version of the right wing. But all indications are that it's going to be really different from his older right wing days where he was on like Fox News. I think his Putin interview shook him deeply. He definitely has not been the same since the Vladimir Putin interview. That's for sure. Already at 158. This is a dumb nickname, but it's also what I thought of as like a silly pun. What's up, Arcanine? It's funny that we're the ones labeled as terrorists. Yeah, kind of. I mean, terrorist has always been like a political kind of nothing word, right? The term terrorism does actually have a definition, which is that it is a politically motivated crime that targets civilians, right? Or civilian infrastructure, you know? But you like functionally, the proximity of civilian infrastructure and politics to the state means that it is very politically easy and expedient oftentimes for a ruling political faction to just designate anybody that opposes them terrorists because they want to see deconstructed or changed the existing political order, and the existing political order is what's good for everybody, so by doing that you actually want to kill civilians or something. Of course, I even drew a more coherent line than they ever will, but terrorist and terrorism are inherently political words that are associated with violence and fear, which authoritarians love, so they will invoke that whenever they have the opportunity. And authoritarians, fascists, and capitalists constantly shit themselves at the prospect of a left wing of a leftist movement that is capable to organize and actually change something that could potentially infringe on their interests of consolidating power and fucking children. So they are very wanton with their usage of the term terrorists when it comes to people on the left or minority groups. Because again, that divides society and prevents it from becoming anything better. So, meanwhile, on the right, you can do actual terrorism, and as long as it doesn't meaningfully threaten the bedrock of the current regime, then they will get anything ranging from the silent treatment to out-and-out veneration from the state. Like, for shit's sake, Charlie Kirk is responsible for borderline genocide, actually not even borderline, genocidal policy aspirations in the Republican Party and stochastic acts of violence against the trans community. By all definitions, he would qualify as a stochastic terrorist. And yet he got full honors and a state funeral. Yeah, they're like the United States is currently not even a state sponsor of terror. It is a terror state because we are funding Israel bombing children in Gaza, and the U.S. military is just obliterating random fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela for fun. Smiley face. Yeah, words are not violence until it's words they don't like. All right, there we go. I completely missed it, but can we impeach Trump already? They're not gonna, and also it wouldn't matter. Trump has been impeached twice, and the Senate voted not to convict both times. Impeachment doesn't really matter anymore. You know, Democrats are too feckless and compromised. Republicans are too evil. You know, and Trump has connections in the capital class, so it's not going to happen, unfortunately. No, I think they generally understand how capital works. It's just a lot of people see that America has mechanisms for removing people from power, and their immediate assumption is, damn, you guys should really use those, not understanding just how dysfunctional America is, that the Democrats won't even do things that are explicitly like word for word spelled out that it is in their power to do, and Republicans will like, I mean, you guys just saw that the one of the Democratic representatives was like, is this an appropriate time to make inquiry as to why the speaker just lied in front of everybody about this and this? And even though that is an inquiry, the current president of the House just like said, shut up, right? They're not supposed to do that, but they did it anyway. You know, basically, however dysfunctional you think America is, it is so much more dysfunctional than that. You know? Yeah, it just this year, Trump has broken so many laws. Like, you guys know about the god awful. We got one nay vote from a Democrat. Who the fuck is this nay vote? Excuse me? Who is this? Whoever that is, if they don't post to Twitter, fuck, I didn't mean to vote that way, that was completely an accident, their ass is not gonna, yeah, misclick. If their ass doesn't post like worst misclick of all time, then they are not coming back to political office. I can guarantee you that. That is funny. So yeah, so far we have 336 votes in favor, 1 vote against. 337, excuse me, it keeps going up. There's some people talking on the House floor. But yeah, like, just to give one example. Yeah, that's just the resign button. Like, end your whole political career button right there. What's the next one? 31? Yeah, 31 and 35. Okay. To give you an idea how broken the United States is at an institutional level, you guys remember the ballroom that Trump has been building on the east wing of the White House? He's not allowed to do that. And it's not just it's illegal. It's so illegal it violates the Constitution. Kind of illegal. You know, there's state law, there's federal law, there's local law, and ordinance and whatever, and a lot of that stuff isn't like spelled out in the Constitution or anything. Trump violates the Constitution as easily as he breathes, and I think the Supreme Court either didn't say anything, or I could be remembering something else, said like, yeah, he can do what he wants now. You know? But at that point, he had already destroyed a part of the White House. You know? Violation of the Constitution right there would be like the biggest scandal in American history outside of the past 10 years. Like, if it weren't for the past 10 years, that would be the biggest scandal anybody had ever seen in America. Like, yeah, let me just oh, they switched their vote. They switched their vote. It was a misclick. True, yeah, he violates the Constitution as easily as he violates kids on Little St. James. And this is far from the only time that he's done that. Like, legitimately, half of the American century of humiliation type shit is like flagrantly ignoring the Constitution entirely. That is why Trump is not going to be impeached. You know? One game theory one time said it's a common misconception that rich people don't suffer consequences. That's maybe like a third correct at most. Rich people really don't suffer consequences. In a way, you could say, well, they suffer different kinds of consequences that are only really relevant in their circles. But that's the fucking problem, is that they're not suffering consequences that have any relation to the real world, i.e. consequences, you know? Yeah, like, China watching this, simply observe. Not everything needs a reaction, you know? President Xi back at it yet again with his classic do absolutely nothing strategy into American century of humiliation, Chinese century of global economic development and prominence or something. Yeah, imagine you're the one no vote, you get a million phone calls. Switch your vote right the fuck now. You know? Oh, there's Kabutops. Hello. China's the one monkey in the Leo and monkey meme. Let me see, what meme is that? Leo and lion. Oh, lion and monkey meme. Oh yeah. This. Live President Xi reaction. American century of humiliation. It's true. It's true. It's the debate bro image me. That's true. Find it funny Republicans were making arguments and still voted yes. Yeah, see, this is proof of so much of what I'm saying. Oh, we got one Republican no vote. I wonder who that is. This is like, yeah, a singular resignation vote. I wonder if they'll change their vote too. This goes to what I was saying about how, like, both parties have been kind of reduced to virtue or vice signaling, where the Republicans are hemming and hawing, but ultimately none of them voted no, right? They all realize that, like, your political career, your career basically as an influencer slash revolving door person type shit is on the line if you don't vote for this. One of the few instances where that aligns with them voting for something that everybody actually wants to happen. And so they all fell in line. You could say we forced Trump to fulfill his promise of releasing the files. That is true. Donald Trump did, in fact, campaign on this and then spent, like, probably half the time that he's been in office, he's spent trying to make this not happen. You know? It's been a good 5 months or so of Trump saying there's no Epstein files. There's nothing to release. Pam Bondi's great. I trust her. It's all a big hoax, big Democrat hoax. And then at the last second, he was like, all right, fuck it, sure. You know? Seven people not voting, it seems like. Interesting. Maybe they just weren't here? The way Trump naturally speaks is so fucking funny. Yeah, well, he has very unique mannerisms, but he has like a New York accent. It's a very particular kind of New York accent that you don't hear very much anymore. Yeah, one political suicide so far. One random Republican voted no on releasing the Epstein files. I wonder who it was. Okay, we can draw straws for it, like who it was. My guess, if I had to guess one of two people, it could either be, I would guess either Jim Jordan or maybe Chip Roy, or like, who is it? Mike Lee is a senator, right? There's like a genuine groyper in the House of Representatives, right? There's got to be a couple. Shows how old he really is. Speaking a U.S. accent that's dying out. Yeah, a lot of accents are kind of dying out in America, that are sort of homogenizing along with language. I started to notice this because my dad has one such accent. He has a very mild version of it. My granddad has a much more pronounced version of it, and I have such a subtle version of that accent that it's hard to tell. You know? Looking for friend area job requests. Nope. Boston accent 80 years ago was more British. Really? I didn't know that. Well, I guess 80 years ago, that kind of tracks, right? Media's gonna have to do some legwork to cover this up. Yeah, they are gonna have to, the media is gonna have to churn into overtime to try to direct this into channels where it's like convenient for them to not talk about it, basically. You know? What are the X-ray specs? See the locations of items and foes. That could be useful, but I don't think I want that right now. Deposit these. Okay. That's one thing that I am gonna miss is like very distinct regional accents in America. There's actually, There's a video of a tornado in the south. People used to pronounce the
vote. The yeas are 427.
Jump scare.
Nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
All right, and there it is. So the House has ordered a release of the Epstein files. He's like the tell us the no guy. We can look it up. We can look up who voted no right now. Congress Epstein files vote. Here it is. Congress.gov. Actions. Oh, boo, it hasn't been updated yet. Introduced past house. It just passed the House just now. So, I'm gonna actually keep this open. I'm interested to see who the one no vote is. Because if you go like, Congress.gov technically has a record of every vote that they've ever done.
United States Code of the rules submitted by the Bureau of Land Management relating to Buffalo Field Office record.
Okay, this is like internal land management type shit. Imagine right now, this is when the Civil War starts. What, the pro-Epstein versus anti-Epstein? Now, people very broadly wanted this. This isn't going to start the MAGA Civil War, like on the right. How do governments release files? Well, they release them in a PDF document or some kind of formatted document to a .gov website. Any public reports from the Senate are hosted publicly online under some kind of senate.gov domain. If there's a Senate report written on something that's publicly available and you Google it, you'll get a link from senate.gov. Yeah, they scan, if they have physical files, they scan them and then release them digitally that way. But they redact sensitive information first. No, there's been a MAGA civil war already happening because of Trump, in the perception of everybody, mismanaging the Epstein files at the best of times. This is among Republicans, by the way, and them being shaken in their faith because he's complicit and implicated in them at worst. This vote, if the Republicans didn't succeed in just blacking out Trump's name every single time in the files, if his name is in there even a few times, the civil war on the right is going to accelerate. It's already sort of gotten to a point of critical mass where it's kind of they can't really aura farm off of Trump anymore. It's kind of hard to do that. But if they black out his name too much, if they censor too many names in the Epstein files, they're gonna be everyone will just assume the redactions are Trump, and they'll be like, what the fuck? We thought you were gonna implicate all these people and that there would be justice. There's no justice against wealthy people, but in the perceptions of people, obviously it's we've all been cheated. Why are you still protecting these people, right? It's your last act before releasing these files. Blur out all the names. Blur out all the names of the pedophiles. I think this will just make Republicans quiet for a couple elections. That, I think, is a comfortable prediction for sure. The Republicans are in an only deepening crisis of identity, because I mentioned that the Democrats, I mentioned on occasion, the Democrats don't have an affirmative vision for America. The Republicans don't either. Both parties right now are neoliberal, very much so. Like I said, virtue signaling versus vice signaling, both forms of basically meaningless aura farming so that they can placate the donors while pretending to do stuff also for their voter base. The Republicans are, I think, going to come to the inevitable conclusion that the only way for them to have political success going forward is to like, is to go even further down the right-wing populist rabbit hole and become proper Nazis, National Socialists, like completely hopped up on the conspiracy juice against Muslims, Jews, and like whoever else, and willing to actually commit to the bit because the suffering is base, basically following through on the vice signaling. So they would transcend from being liberal fascist to fascist, you know? Does that make sense? And yes, Kayla the Furry, I do think also that socialists and social democrats in America could very well take advantage of this gap that's been opened up where now the Democratic and Republican parties are both, it seems, too weak to fight back. You know, the primary job, don't forget, of the Republican and Democratic Party is to ensure the business interests are protected almost by definition at the expense of the interests of the working class, you know? Which means on the Republican side, being outwardly hostile to unions, to migrants, dividing and conquering that way. And on the Democratic side, whinging about solely the social issues, introducing id poll, again, divide and conquer. Oh, yeah, when the Soc Dems come around, it's hard for me to imagine that they'll fumble the bag like the SPD did in Germany, because the Soc Dems are kind of already folded into the neoliberals that are doing id poll type shit, you know? Yeah, like this is almost a perfect road to success for people like Zoran Mamdani and Katie Wilson. Now the field is open for them to do really good things for their city, and then Aura Farm on top of that to boost other politicians and movements that want to do the same, you know? Yeah, it's like uniparty type shit. It's not always the same at the state level. There's like frequently there's much more room at the state level for social democrats and socialists to move. But even then, it depends on the state, and there was still like significant political barriers to entry for anybody left enough to suggest something like, I don't know, rent control, rent freezes, or like publicly owned grocery stores, you know? Yeah, we need to bring Keynesianism back. And I don't know. I do not know truthfully how businesses are going to react to this. Yeah. I think, okay. I'm thinking of outlets like NBC and ABC and CBS and like the most mainstream of the mainstream. Yeah, I feel like they're going to, like, desperate to the last. I feel like they're gonna try to downplay and downplay and downplay. Yes, that's true, Kayla. You're right. The Republican Party in America has been a massive cultural exporter of fascism over the past decade. And this kind of inhibits their ability to do that, especially when fascist movements in other countries are so America coded. You know, the only country where I could see that not necessarily being the case is, ironically, Russia. You know, their fascism is a brand sort of unique to them, but every other country, it's like woke in America just becomes le wokisme or something in French, or like wokismo in any given Spanish speaking country out of the dozens that are out there. Yeah, they're going to make fun of America even more. And that's going to make it difficult for fascists in other countries to aura farm and do their shit. Friend area? No. Sinister Woods. Nope. Mount Freeze? Nope. Their fascism is basically uber conservative communist LARPing. Yeah, a lot of when you cross a certain threshold in Europe, you get to certain places in Eastern Europe, and the far right is sort of characterized by using the aesthetics of the far left, but implying that they're more based and trad-pilled. You know? It's very goofy. Imagine releasing these files gives Trump a heart attack. That would be funny. He is old and his health is deteriorating. Do I think that's particularly realistic? No. But is the likelihood of that 0? Also, no. For him, this is scary? Yeah, potentially. I mean, he Trump, more than anything, is concerned with those approval numbers. You know, he loves to see when people love him, and this is not going to be good for that. His whole identity, both in politics and everywhere else, is like he wants to be the big businessman who does business deals, and you know, he's shaking hands, and he's a real estate guy, and he knows how to work people and whatever, right? Yeah, 1 billion Epstein-shaped McDonald's nuggets, and he dies or something. It's not going to impact him well. I feel like he's going to slip further and further into a state of like mental decline and being really belligerent, because Trump really only knows how to be belligerent. And when infighting happens in the Republican Party, that sort of compounds on itself because Donald Trump is like really belligerent. Restaurants doing collaboration with the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. That's kind of crazy. It does make sense though. You know, branding and some such. People are going to be like, yo, it's the restaurant that did the Five Nights at Freddy's thing. I don't really care about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, so, but I haven't looked at it either. Wait, I was going to check the mailbox. Right. Northern Range. I'm going to delete these two. Well, I'll accept them just to probably delete them. Imagine Mystery Dungeon, you have to pay taxes. They implemented that in Five Nights at Los Pollos Hermanos. That's fucking true. My name is Gustavo, but you can call me Gus. You get the Gustavo Fring jump scare. Breaking Bad X Five Nights at Freddy's. That would be really funny. I kind of like that. I need a couple of apples from storage. Honestly, I'm kind of, you're trying to stop the animatronics from making drugs. Imagine that's the plot of the game. You're like, you fucking work with the FDA. You go into this drug lab and it's just haunted animatronics everywhere. Welcome to Los Pollos Hermanos. My name is Michael Afton, but you can call me the purple guy. Hey, wait, it's William Afton. I think William Afton is the purple guy. But yes, Gustavo Fring reveal, he's actually the purple guy. Yeah, I don't blame you. I take that as a marker of social function that you don't know the whatever the fuck about Five Nights at Freddy's. And on my part, it could be considered a mark of a social dysfunction that I do, that I know anything about it. How does a Five Nights at Freddy's story feel less silly in real life? Than real life? Well, when you consider that real life is basically Metal Gear, it starts to make a little bit more sense. I don't know. Wait, delivery mission? No, I don't want that. Ew, get it out of here. Northern Range, Buried Relic. I'm not going to Buried Relic. Let's see if Congress.gov was updated yet. Nope. Nope. Introduced in the House. Oh man, that was back in July. Saw a video a while ago where someone made a video that Armstrong uses his face camo to look like Trump. Oh, like the nano machines. Oh god. Murdered by El Senor William Antonio. DEA jump scare. Fucking caught cooking meth. No, I didn't want to store anything, right? But I wanted to. You definitely you 100% cooked with the fucking the fucking restaurant being Los Pollos Hermanos. It's instead of like Gus Fring is the purple guy. What was the Northern Range mission over here? There was something else that I wanted to mention. Yeah, in relation to this vote particularly, I'm kind of surprised that Ken Klippenstein's prediction was or that like his prediction that the vote would be undermined was not correct, but it's a pleasant surprise to be sure. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. You know, because that, like, historically, that is a thing that happens. Just remember to always come back. That'd be fire. I hope okay, now I've actually been so convinced of this that, like, get the fuck out of here. Random solicitation. Stop. Okay. I'm actually now, like, getting kind of disappointed that, like, that's obviously not gonna be the next FNAF movie. I wanted to be the Los Pollos Hermanos so bad. The first FNAF movie was already so deeply unserious. It would only be fitting for it to follow through on that. Be willing to be spring-trapped in a chicken animatronic or whatever happened to Mr. Willie Afton. It would be infinite pain for all time. At least an online skit would be funny. Yes, that would be... I would genuinely be surprised if somebody didn't do that. Like, that would be great. You say the same thing still, right? Yeah. Okay. Do I have to get the other friend areas first? Let me check this guidebook that I've had up for a little while. No, where's the, okay. Sky Blue Plains. Random missions. Okay. I'm pleasantly surprised that Ken Klippenstein's prediction that, like, national security would undermine the vote didn't end up becoming correct. Like, but nonetheless, I think that was still, like, a sound lens of analysis, because, like, the circles that Jeffrey Epstein ran in, right, were primarily him cultivating influence with the military-industrial complex and that sort of social echelon of the capital class, as well as, like, the capital class more broadly. It would only make sense that, like, it would that would be something that would run up against like the release of the files. How many goofy stories do you think we're going to get from the files? Probably a lot. Probably a large amount. I feel like the news is going to be really conflicted on this. They're going to really want to not implicate themselves. So they might actually, we might see a lot of catch and kill. But at the same time, if the news wants to stay relevant from like a ratings perspective, they have to jump all over this. You know? Yeah, especially because a lot of news executives and editorial boards are implicated in this in the files. They're probably like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. How do we deal with this, right? That would be a generational question in history class. Okay, kids, how many kids were abused by like by Donald Trump on Jeffrey Epstein's island or whatever? Or like how many times did Donald Trump visit Little St. James? Like that ends up being a relevant history question for exploring, I don't know, like the second American Gilded Age, where like institutions were so incredibly compromised by business interests that it just like governments just didn't do anything. Like that was the norm for governments to do absolutely nothing. Probably be a high school thing. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it is gonna be like pretty hard to get around that the whatever's gonna be exposed in the Epstein files are like, oh yeah, it wasn't just one person. It was like literally the entire system everywhere was compromised to this one pedophile who threw pedophile parties for other pedophiles who ran various businesses and governments around the world and were like high ranking officers in the military or whatever the fuck, right? True. I would love Los Pollos de Manos. Fucking free weed estrogen restaurant, or they put the weed and the estrogen in the chicken, so you they trans you by giving you trans chicken or some shit. I don't know. I would like that to be a thing. Mostly the estrogen part. Is weed illegal yet? Well, yeah, it was already federally illegal. Weed is illegal at the federal level in the United States. It's decriminalized in a lot of states, but no, it hasn't been like weed is legal in MA. Yeah, in Massachusetts it's legal. I think in DC it's like fully decriminalized. In Colorado and California obviously it's legal. But the possession of marijuana federally is still a crime. Springtrap suit, but instead of spring locks, it has estrogen. Me looking online, trying to speedrun the fastest I can jump headfirst into a spring lock animatronic suit. With the fucking speedrun music. Hold on, I just got a devilish idea. Okay. Is this the thing I'm thinking of? Many such cases. You get caught with weed in another state, you go to jail. Yes. You can be penalized for weed possession if you cross state lines with it. Anyone say that the game is muted? Oh, yeah, the game's not muted. It's just, it's really quiet. Sorry, I had the volume turned down for when I was listening to CBS. There we go. You should be able to hear it better now. Thank you for letting me know that the audio was too quiet. Yeah, America's kind of goofy like that. Very large country, very wacky federalist system type shit. Oh, the large country, large people. That's true. That's big fact. On the subject of the files being released, I saw recently there was a clip. There was a clip of a DOJ official or something. Yeah, here it is. Don't play audio. Okay. This actually made me kind of worried for what the Epstein files are going to look like. But again, like I said, like depending on what they redact, it's only going to inflame things further. There's going to be so many YouTube videos about this, and I'm going to be guilty of contributing to that almost undoubtedly. But this guy you may know from the what was it, Project Veritas or whatever. It was that like right-wing conservative journalist group, and it was actually journalism, right? Like they tried to interview people in ways that were not politically convenient to what they viewed as hostile structures of power. And they've actually followed through on that. They have not simply fallen in line completely with Donald Trump and the government right now. A deputy chief from the DOJ admitted in an interview that they did with like undercover reporter from this organization that the government is going to redact all the Republicans while leaving the liberal, like Democratic people on the Epstein client list. And that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a lower security prison as a benefit to keep her mouth shut. She got transferred to a minimum security prison, which is against BOP policy, Bureau of Prisons, because she's a convicted sex offender. If you're a convicted sex offender, you cannot be housed in a minimum security prison. Unless, of course, you are like the most powerful pedophile in the world, in which case you get that for free. You want to know how to get my dog to stop licking my blanket? I don't know. So it's possible that they may have gone a decent ways towards doing this. But again, I don't know how much this would really do for them. Considering that people would see that, would take one look at that and be like, okay, which one of the, like, why did you blot out the names of the perpetrators? Could it be that you're like, that it's not particularly convenient to you? I think I've mentioned this before, but the right wing particularly is too primed in conspiratorial thinking, is too aware of conspiracies as a concept for them to not see right through this. If the government follows through and it like actually did redact a significant number just of the Republicans. you know? And I should just mention that, like, everybody on the left has been talking about the fact that they were probably doing that behind the scenes. And now we have confirmation from a top official in the Department of Justice that is what they've been doing. You know? Sinister Woods is where I'm gonna go. Nido King. He's still going to only be level 1. Yeah. Yeah. So the paperwork is just going to read like such and such, name blanked out, did whatever with this other person. I mean, I know for a fact that Republicans actually wanted to leave the names of the victims unredacted, because I think when they released all those emails, they didn't bother redacting the names of any victims who were mentioned. But some of the emails had redacted names of people who were implicated. You know? Yeah, there's gonna be, you know, those videos of people like reading creepypastas or SCP stories on the internet. It's gonna be that type of shit where it's just like a very smooth, masculine sounding narrator voice reading over like a section of the Epstein files of like which powerful person was like diddling kids on Little St. James, with Jeffrey Epstein flying on the Lolita Express and then going back to their office in like DC or Paris or London or wherever to like be a regular government official when they weren't doing that. I'm kind of here for that. Anything that like cements the identity of particularly the Republicans as being implicated in the Epstein files. But of course, the Democrats need to go too. I would love nothing more than for like Bill Clinton. Well, I mean, I would love something more than for Bill Clinton and all the Democratic like individuals implicated to be imprisoned. And the thing that I would love more than that, if both the Democrats and the Republicans who are implicated in the Epstein files all went to prison. Obviously, that's not going to happen, like I said, but it's possible that they like basically lose all of their political capital and public image and have to like deal with being universally hated for the rest of their life, and like no business will ever give them money again or some shit. I don't know. There's gonna be so many children comparing these files to the SCPs. I mean, I think I already saw somebody do that. I don't remember if it was you or for somebody in a different chat where there was like a legal document with it was you? Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's how government documents look when there's something that they don't deem fit for public access to be shown, is they redact it. Somebody did post a good meme though that referenced SCP, where it's like the SCP page where it's like 3 like it's like a full paragraph and like 90% of it is completely censored except for a couple words of like SCP something like bunch of black bars and then like obliterated his testicles at the end or some shit, you know, where it's like just enough for you to like guess that something absolutely insane is happening underneath all the black bars, you know, but you like don't exactly know what it is. Oh, great, none of us can hit each other. Characters really like to miss. Yeah, it's true. It's very annoying. No, I'll keep adventuring. But yeah, it's gonna be great to see the parties, particularly the Republicans, sort of squirm and deteriorate under the new political weight of the Epstein files being released. I actually am also very curious to see what people are gonna notice first, like what people are going to come across first when browsing through these files, you know, if/when they get released. Well, I should say when they get released to the public. How does a beam pick them up, or does it break through the ceiling? It's a teleportation gem, so it teleports them. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I might even I think on another stream I would be interested in looking at what some of the Epstein files have contained in them. But obviously that's not going to be this stream because there's only like a few minutes left, and then I'm gonna head out. But I got the important part, which is we watched the vote on CBS Live on YouTube. Won't you have to censor it a lot? What, the Epstein files? Probably not. Well, actually, no, I don't think I will. I generally don't censor my videos. Like, every time I say that, I, like, consider it and then realize, no, that's probably not a good idea. You sure it won't violate terms of service? I wouldn't do something that, like, if I thought something violated terms of service, I probably just wouldn't post it as a segment, you know? Or I wouldn't look at it to begin with. Like, when I was doing, for example, when I was looking at that Call of Duty Advanced Warfare collection of cutscenes, there is lots of violence and gore in that game. But because it's part of gameplay footage, it doesn't violate YouTube TOS, which is why I didn't censor it, because that's in a video game that's okay to post to YouTube. And it's also okay to air on Twitch because, you know, Twitch is a gaming platform. If there's, I guess if there's slurs in there, I would have to censor that. It depends on the kind of language that is used in the Epstein files. Certainly, if there's something particularly objectionable, like for terms of service, I might not read it aloud. We'll see how it plays out. But I think the Epstein files are like, yeah, I think it's too big and important for me to not go through it and for YouTube to like ban everybody that does. Does that make sense? Developers coming to deliver the mail again. Very nice. Clunk. Yay. What do we got? Okay. Info. Max elixir. Money. Blue gummy. No. I'm gonna accept that just to delete it. There we go. You think Elon is in the files? No, I don't think so. Well, no, he might be. He might be. Maybe not to the extent that somebody like Trump or Clinton is. I don't know how frequently he would have ridden on the Lolita Express. My first thought was like he might be a little bit too young to be implicated to that extent. But then I realized, no, he was already a very wealthy and famous businessman in the 2000s and 2010s, which was about the time that, Jeffrey Epstein was still, doing his thing. It's entirely possible that he's implicated. So Even though my initial reaction was like, no, I don't think he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he was. You know? His father might be, you know? Like Errol Musk, the guy that owned the Emerald Mine. I have a feeling he would be in the Epstein files. What do I have on my job list? Not freeze. Come on, give me one that has a friend area. No? Nothing. Dang. The one story was Elon forcing someone to massage him. Yeah, it was that lady who didn't end up doing it. I think, where it was like he offered her, what was it, $250,000 and a horse, which was very funny. Guys, what do you think? Escort mission on the 97th floor of Buried Relic? Thoughts? Thoughts? I'm obviously not doing that. I have one for Northern Range. I can take that. Alligator needs help. That stuff plus question mark. Deliver Rossberry? No, I don't. I don't care for that. Yeah. Probably pretty scary. Like, imagine being stuck in a cave and you can't, like, you don't know where you are. Be pretty fucked. Pretty fucked up. I'd be spooked, you know? Is there anything for Lapis Cave? Yeah, and there's also creatures that really want to beat you up. Nido King. Why is that one wider? Oh, it's not. It just looked like it was. Okay, I'll take the mission from my mailbox just to get it off of the mailbox list so other stuff can get in there. Alright, Mount Freeze. None of these have the friend area thing. Do I need to go to Fiery Field, maybe? I don't know. I have one extra apple. I'll need to deposit some stuff in storage. Don't want these, don't want these, don't want this. You can go. You can go, you stay. And you stay. Okay. Beat up a legendary and tell them to do their job? True. Yeah, you have to, like, with Rayquaza, you have to win a boss fight. You're like, dude, there's a meteorite coming. You have to destroy it. And he's like, I don't want to. He's like, fucking do it. You know? I know, dude. If Rayquaza was petty enough to say no, I'm not gonna do it, that would be peak. Okay, my job list is actually full, so I can't take more stuff. How do you get sky blue planes? Do you have to do other stuff first? Oh, okay, thank you, AP. We know who the one no vote was. Check this out. No, fuck you, AP, I'm not subscribing. When a small bipartisan group of House lawmakers introduced a petition in July to maneuver around House Speaker Mike Johnson's control of which bills reached the House floor, it appeared a long-shot effort, especially as Trump urged his supporters to dismiss the matter as a hoax. Both Trump and Johnson failed in their efforts to prevent the vote. Now the president has bowed to the growing momentum behind the bill and even said he will sign it if it also passes the Senate. Moments before the House vote, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said his chamber will act swiftly on the bill. The bill passed 427-1, with the only no vote coming from Representative Clay Higgins, a Louisiana Republican who's a fervent supporter of Trump. He also chairs a subcommittee that initiated a subpoena on the Justice Department for the Epstein files. Most coherent Republican. So that was the one Republican that voted against the release of the files. Representative Clay Higgins from Louisiana. Let me see, what does this guy look like? That's him. Yeah, I'd say he looks pretty evil. Make him the thumbnail? I don't think so. People don't know who Clay Higgins is enough to click on that thumbnail. He does have like a very soulless stare. He has thumb phrenology. And he's a Republican, which automatically makes him evil, but he also looks evil. Fucking 1,000-yard stare ass looking ass. Yeah. There's no reason for him to vote no, but he did it anyway. Yeah, that's actually a great question. Why would he vote no? Unless Trump maybe has something on him specifically, where he was like, look, even if my political career is over, I still have to vote no. Otherwise, like, I don't know, Trump sends somebody to break my kneecaps particularly. I don't know. I mean, remember, like, not too long ago, just a few days ago, Trump was taking lawmakers that were on the fence about signing, what was it, the discharge petition, to the Situation Room. Lauren Boebert, he took into the Situation Room to try to tell her to vote against the discharge petition for releasing the Epstein files. And to my knowledge, she actually didn't do it. Wait, no, that's not what I meant to do. Crap. She's going back and forth between who's leader of the rescue team. Give gummy, gold, green, and pink. I do wonder why Pokemon ditched the mystery dungeon games. I wonder that too. You know what? You know what I think maybe it is? It's hard to make the mystery dungeon games on, like, that Pokemon is kind of like the cash cow of Nintendo, right? They're comfortable making them on a set yearly or like tri-yearly, so like once every 3 years development cycle. And they're okay with just kind of producing slop that's designed for them to get a revenue boost, right? For their 5-year reports, you know? Nintendo has kind of made Pokemon into that, but yeah, they're not completely dead. 5 years ago, we got Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX for the Nintendo Switch, a remake of this game that I think does it justice. I think that Nintendo considers Pokemon Mystery Dungeon enough of a spin-off that's disconnected from main series Pokemon games that they can afford to give the dev team, like, more time to work on it. And also, this isn't made by the same team that makes the main series games. This is, like, collaboration between, like, what is it, the Pokemon Company and Chunsoft or something like that? It's not the same people that make the games. You imagine a Mystery Dungeon game as broken as Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, I could imagine that. Anyway, I know that was exactly what I think it is. Going live. I'm gonna now, shit, how am I even gonna navigate this such that I can get, like, the friend area that I need to progress the story? What is going on here? Like, these jobs are really inconsistent. Imagine the motorcycle legendary in a Mystery Dungeon game. That'd be really weird. Or it would just be like Latias and Latios, where it's just a normal-ass Pokemon, and they don't really introduce it as a gameplay thing at all. Anyways, let's go raid somebody. Whee! Who is live right now? Not anybody that I particularly want to raid, unfortunately. Yeah, let me, yeah, I think I'll just end the stream. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, I can find a job from the Mystery Dungeon jobs board that has the actual, like, friend area on it so I can progress the post game more. I hate the fact that this is, like, so down to RNG. Alright, see you guys later.